evening, everyone. I'd like to get the regular board meeting, our special meeting, the 23rd of May started. At the front rear, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could all just take a moment of silence before we start tonight's meeting, for those that were unfortunate last night in the bombing in Manchester who perished, and those that were injured, if we could still have a moment of silence for those. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First order of business is the events application amendment to include cost reimbursement clause. Be resolved following the April 18th meeting, Attorney Sack was asked to review the existing current application and include a clause requiring an event application to possibly reimburse the Village of Monroe at the discretion of the Board of Trustees. The cost of increased police protection, public safety, oversight of public works facilitation, including all additional equipment to adequately and safely control and protect the persons attending the event area, and traffic in and around the area, and any additional necessary staffing. The Board of Trustees requires reimbursement. Such amounts will be provided to the applicant upon receipt of the cost by the Chief of Police, Highway Super, and/or Fire Chief prior to approval of events applications. So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
What's the total for all of these events, I'm getting from the police department, was $11,583.
Let me, you know what?
Yeah.
Stop.
What was the total for the highway?
Okay, well, the highway, actually, they only have one event that they're involved in now, and that's that would be the Cheese Fest. No, July 4th, John said there was no cost to the village for July 4th. They usually pick up, it would be like an overtime weekend. He said his cost that he incurs was the Cheese Fest.
We incur a cost for July 4th?
That's what I said to him. He only gave me a number for the Cheese Fest, which was approximately $4,000. But what you do is actually in this memo the chief gave us, it was included the fireman's parade, which is not normal. So if you deduct that out, which was $6,000, I broke out non-village events when you add them all in, Cheese Fest, with the DPW, with the PD, and then the PD handling all other. Right. It's about $10,300 for non-village events. When you add the village events that go on, which is the July and the concert series, the total bill is $16,500.
That's including our events.
That's including everything. That's including non-village events and village events. So I broke out non-village events about $10,000.
About $10,300?
Yep, and then the village events are about about $6,300. So around about $65 for all the events that go on in the village.
I understand that, but my position is going to be, I think these events breathe a lot of life into the village. I understand it may be a slight burden on taxpayer, but we're talking, what, 14 cents a household? Or not even?
It's probably less than that.
Yeah, so I think these events, just my opinion, these events breathe a lot of life into the village and keep the village busy and stuff for people to do, people want to see. It brings people into our village as we hopefully do our other projects. It will bring more business. It does bring some business in there, like Planet Pizza and places like that do benefit from some of these. So that's just my opinion.
What's in the events application? It's in the events application. It's important, something to discretion of the board to what they want to charge or not. It's not, you have to, just want everybody to, you notice that was in there.
I can't see, I read that, I can't see how you can decide who is and who isn't.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. You gotta get rid of one.
I think it's right. It's got to
We're
be.
doing it or we're not doing it. That's my opinion.
For the obviously up to the discretion of highway and PD. And any other entity that would involve. My only concern is, you know, it's one thing to put the guys out, and by guys I mean highway department, PD, to put them out on streets for 5Ks, and I think you're just asking, the potential for unnecessary danger is there. So, you know, that becomes a burden on the taxpayers if, you know, they're injured in an event that normally they would not necessarily be required to attend. And I just think, well, you know what I think.
Yeah, well, we have.
I've said this 100
We have
times.
this life insurance coverage, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
$1 million liability policy.
Well, you're talking about village employees. Like,
Correct.
You're talking about event participants.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything to say?
It was my baby, so.
Oh, no, we know, it's not, that's why I just asking.
I'm just curious, I believe someone here tonight has an event. Todd, you here?
That's correct.
So you've heard a little bit about what we're just discussing. I'm curious to know your input.
Right, may I address the board?
Please.
Yes, thanks. Todd Jennings, representing the Declaration Day 5K. You had the permit in front of you, and I know that was part and parcel to what generated this discussion. Not the only thing, I'm sure, but I agree with Trustee Chan. That's my position. And Mayor Purcell has also said in the past that he has held the position that community events do generate a lot of strength and commitment and engagement in the community, and in the end result them to be more involved and even spend more of their money here versus, let's say, going to the beach and spending money, you know, on the Bradley Beach Boardwalk. I know that I hadn't anticipated what the budget, you know, was for annual events that are not village events. I'm not at all surprised to hear that it's $10,000. And I agree also with Trustee Chen that that is a small price to pay for the community. Trustee Conklin expressed a concern about liability. Two comments on that. One is to consider the liability of being out on the street directing traffic versus the general liability of an officer engaging with somebody in a traffic stop, or, you know, dealing with a domestic dispute, and how do those two things compare? Something to think about. The second thing is that with all the events that I produce, because they do involve being on the roads, many of them anyway, I do take out a $10 million umbrella policy that covers not only myself, but any and all third parties that require it, which would include the village.
As additional insured?
As additional insured, third-party insured.
So just to clarify, when a patrolman or a highway worker is out doing their job, i.e. a domestic, that's their job. I understand what you're saying, but we're putting them out in additional, other than their normal job. We're now asking them to direct traffic for an event that they normally wouldn't be doing. So that to me is the difference. I'm, you know what I'm saying?
Understand the position?
The other thing is, do you charge for your events?
Yes, I do.
You do. Okay.
Yep. I also raise money for charity with each and every one of my events that I hold in Monroe, including this year's.
Okay.
I'm curious, what is your fee for entrance?
It varies depending on when during the registration cycle, but the average for this year's event is about $38, 4 of which goes to the chosen charity, $4.
Sure. And the participant level is, how many would you have last year?
We had a little over 200 last year, and based on the growing popularity, we're anticipating between 250 and 275 this year. Hope to raise $1,000 for safe homes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to add, I guess, several points. The first point is, I guess one could argue the concerns for public safety in any event or any venue or at that, and I do agree with that. But I think mine is more of a fiscal bend. You know, we talk about, you know, what does it make up for the village? You know, how does the village benefit from it? And I mean the village meaning the business district and the community at large from an event like yours. Obviously, it does allow for great community involvement. That's a good thing, right? I think with regard to the downtown, I'm not so sure, and I defer to you on that. I mean, your race doesn't take you downtown. The race takes you around the periphery, and then I think it ends where?
It takes the runners on Mill Pond Parkway.
Right?
And then this year, a left turn at Lake Street, and then we run on the run path out and around to the Harris Trail because of the 208 overpass closure.
Sure.
We modified the course, and I sat down with Sergeant Emmett and Chief Conklin, and we discussed a course that they were very amenable to. And actually, since 1 full mile of it is on the Harris Trail this year, it requires fewer intersections to be managed.
Sure. And then the last component, obviously, is the cost. You know, there is collateral, there is residuals to the benefits. But as a board, we're challenged, you know, to sometimes find ways to save $10,000 to bring a budget in at a certain dollar. You know, these residents, as the Asian population in this community, we want them to stay because they, quote unquote, I guess, paid their dues as long-standing members and paid their taxes, as every resident does. So that's a challenge as well. And I think, for me, that's the impetus behind this, is to say, we understand and we embrace and we like having people come into this community. It's a beautiful, beautiful village, probably the most beautiful village in the county. But there's a cost, and sometimes we have to think about those things financially, what the impact is from the standpoint of the staff that has to come and support it afterwards or during. So, and listen, you're just one event. You know, as these events grow, and they have been since I'm on board, you know, we're getting more and more event applications. There's an impact to it, you know. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
I think it's hard because it is nice to bring events, and I think it's something that people look forward to if you do something over and over again, kind of like how we grew up with the carnivals, and now there's a carnival back, and I know this is it like the 4th year of the race meeting?
4th year.
And I know there's a lot of walks that go on, so it is tough. It's hard when you look at it as like 14 cents a household. That's not a lot of money, you know, but it's kind of tough.
I think
I'm just curious, if I could?
Yep.
I'm just curious, if there were a fee imposed, because I don't know if you were absolutely aghast at the idea. I think you had some sense of it. Do you agree with that, of a fee-based event?
I wouldn't qualify myself as being aghast at it, but I do know that there are considerations with respect.
No, I say you weren't.
I'm not aghast.
No, exactly.
No.
Yeah.
But there are considerations with respect to the way the event is managed fiscally. You know, for instance, you know, would we need to bring in a financial sponsor to cover the municipal costs? Would we need to raise the registration price to cover some of the costs, which would, in effect, discourage some of the participation? Would we have to dispense with the charity element and just say we're not doing it for charity? And I would not want to do that. That I would be aghast at, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that we don't have to dispense with we don't have to dispense with the charity in this case, because I think that's an important part, and of course the village is contributing to that, to a charity that actually gives services, in this case to the village of Monroe.
I actually like the idea that the route changed, even if the bridge weren't closed. Maybe that's a better idea anyway.
I agree, and should we do this event this year and going forward, I think that would become a permanent change.
Good.
And Todd, don't you usually have people that like man intersections?
I do. Chief Conklin has asked me to have a minimum of 6 volunteers to help. He sort of deputizes them and give them vests and flags, and they manage some of the intersections. This year, they won't have to manage the intersections on North Main Street and on Elm on the back street that we typically do, because that part of the course is gone.
Right.
We're doing it, that whole section will be on Heritage Trail instead.
And did you have a conversation with the chief about how this is actually going to impact you, because it's being held on Independence Day, or on the same day as the?
It's held the same day as fireworks, which was something that you had asked me to consider after the first year, and so every year in January I call and I say Do we know when the fireworks are? Because that's when I want to.
Right, because he does have manpower already here, so I'm just curious
Right.
how exactly this will affect your event.
I don't know what the cost is going to be, so I don't know what the effect will be.
Cost is $1,664.88.
I'm sorry?
Oh, it's on here.
$1,664.88.
That would have a very, very catastrophic
Yes.
impact on
See
the
everything
event.
in the application from the chief's report. So that would be the cost for PD.
I understand.
We're looking at all of the events, right?
It would be every
We're looking
event.
at everything, I
It
mean,
would be
you know,
every event in the
it's the
village.
same as, you know, the concerts, that brings a lot of people down to the downtown, and it's a nice thing to do on a Saturday night with the family, you know, it's a lot of different age groups, which I like. You know, I bring my little kids, there's, you know,
Right here.
people all the way up, you know,
Yeah.
different ages, and that's kind of a nice thing to do, so, I like having the concerts, and I feel like it does bring business to the restaurants.
And then, no, what happens is then when they slow down,
If I may ask a question, Trustee Barringer, is the YMCA event also subject to this new consideration?
I would think everyone would be, wouldn't they all be subject to
Because I
it?
know they're just a couple weeks after my event, and they do use those services.
Right.
Okay, this is an event application, and anybody that comes to the village to inquire about an event and fills out an application, this will impact anybody who does that.
And the last question is, it would become effective immediately or
It'll be effective immediately.
immediately? I understand.
The Y's already been approved, I'm correct?
Yes.
Yeah, the Y's been already approved, so they wouldn't, technically, they wouldn't fall under it because it's already been approved by the board. Technically. We'd have to, when is their event? July 15th. We'd have to, if the board wanted to, they would have to revisit it. Anybody else? I just want to say, I think it's just a small part of doing business, the exposure to the village. I do respect the opinions of the trustees because, you know, every dollar does count. But I think it's a great way to expose. My concern would be is that we would lose events, especially on the smaller charities like the Trot, Turkey Trot, MS Walk. There's costs that are affiliated. So, you know, I do respect everybody's position, but I think it's just the free exposure to the village that they get. It's a small price of doing business in the village. While other communities throughout the county have a lot of events, pretty much run the same way. They eat the cost. But at the end of the day, you know, financial decisions do have to be made. So, anybody else? All right, I'll call a question. Trustee Chan.
No,
Trustee Dwyer.
No,
To the events application being ordered, all events have to be paid for reimbursement.
reimbursement.
Well, we have the option to charge, it's what's in there, but that's what's in the resolution. Trustee Dwyer.
yeah, I'll say no.
I'm gonna say no also.
Trustee Conklin.
I say yes.
So carried. Okay, next is the 4th of July Annual Declaration Day 5K race, City View promotions continue. B, due to a discussion of a possible fee schedule change that took place during executive session on April 18th, meeting the application submitted to City View Promotions, their 4th Annual Declaration Day K5 race was tabled. This event is to be held on Monday, July 3rd, 2017, from 10 to 11 a.m. It's contingent on their approval of the New York State DOT 33B permit. The purpose of this event is to foster community spirit, support local businesses, and raise money for their event sponsor, Safe Homes of Orange County. The following roads will be used. The Captain's Table on Route 17M to Stage Road, making a left onto Mill Pond Parkway, a left onto Lake Street, a right onto Route 17M, a right onto Mill Pond Parkway, picking up the Heritage Trail down to Clark Street, a U-turn on Clark Street, continue onto Maple Avenue, left onto Stage Road. left back onto Route 17M and turning right into the Captain's Table parking lot to finish. Coordination of the event has been made with the Administrative Sergeant Ematetti. 8 police officers of the event for overtime will be used to close roads, direct traffic, provide safety to the runners. An estimated cost of the police protection, the amount is estimated $1,664.88. A minimum of 6 course volunteers from the organization will provide assistance with traffic in every post. So I need a motion.
I'll make the
I
motion.
need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Call question, trustee Chan,
Aye.
trustee Dwyer, trustee Berenger,
Aye.
trustee Conklin.
Aye.
So carried. Actually, I think we might want to revisit something that I think Todd did here was kind of, we normally don't have this in our application for insurance. Irene did make a good point about the liability to the village employees that are working the event. I think we might, guys, want to consider increasing the insurance, as Todd has covered an umbrella, so we're not on the hook for any injury or lawsuit. What do you think?
Sounds like a good idea.
I mean, Irene did make a good point. And Todd, this is the first time, actually, to be honest with you, I've ever seen this in any of the applications, where they put the umbrella, just because the 1 million liability is all we ask for.
Right.
So, Scott, we'll get that to you, so we can work that in. Okay, guys, is good?
Yeah.
All right.
And Mayor, just one interjection on the course that you described. After the turn onto Lake Street, the right-hand turn is not on 17M, but rather onto the run path. In the park.
By Barnstable?
No. We're on Mill Pond, I'm going to go left on the lake as we're heading towards 17M, but we don't turn right on 17M, we actually turn right onto the run path. We follow the run path around to the airplane. And then from there we hop onto the heritage trail.
Okay. I had us coming up, so.
Okay.
So nothing on 17M in that section to manage.
Okay.
Say it again, Tom. So, Captain's Table 17M to Stage Road, left onto Mill Pond Parkway.
Then left again onto Lake, and then right onto the run path, not onto 17M, but onto the run path.
The walking path around Crane Park.
Yes, and then follow that path around to the
Mill Pond
airplane
Parkway.
itself. Right. Mill
And that's
Pond.
where you pick up the Heritage
That's
Trail
where we
down
pick up
to
the-
Clark Street. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for your input. Next is the completion of the secret process for the adoption of local laws 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of 2016. Based upon the environmental assessment form, Part 1, 2, and 3 were applicable, the Board of Trustees hereby determined that the introductory laws 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 9 of 2016 will not have a significant adverse environmental impact on the environment. So I resolve that the Board of Trustees, I apologize, the Village of Monroe, hereby issue a negative declaration in connection with the introductory local laws 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of 2016, completing the secret process. The reason and elaboration for this conclusion is set forth in the question and answer in EAF Parts 2 and number 3. Substantive modifications addressed are introductory for local laws number 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of 2016. Work to make the village code more streamlined and understandable, and ensuring the changes will protect the village's obligations to provide adequate housing options for all concerned. Consistent with the 2009 Tri-County Regional Housing Study, the village is less than 100 units short of its target date of year 2020. The shortfall can be made up through additional multifamily affordable units constructed on upper floors of commercial buildings in the CB zone, which will continue to be permitted in the amended zoning and recommendations in the comprehensive plan. So I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
I'll second it for discussion.
Discussion.
Please,
Yes.
I'd like to do some kind of like reassessment of this today. From the very beginning, when we started this process, back in October, I'll say, that's when we got the revisions to the comp plan and local laws 5 through 9. The board was asked to discuss and to adopt the changes that were given to us. At that time, those changes were not adopted. In fact, we extended a moratorium to realize or review the process by which these conclusions were given to us. In 2012, the comp plan committee got together, formulated insight, and created a document, the comp plan, which was adopted in 2014. From that time forward, there was a second committee that worked on amending that comp plan that they took 2 years to do, so that each one would marry the other, or would align with each other. But the narrative always, for me, had to do with why we were doing all this. I didn't really know why we were doing it. And as the mayor just read into the minutes, he mentioned the Tri-County study was the impetus, primarily, at least to my understanding, why we got into all this work. And I looked at that Tri-County study, and I looked at it twice, and 3, and 4, and 5 times, and I've spoken to the consultants about it. My numbers don't work with theirs. They just don't. And I haven't been given the math as to why theirs works and mine doesn't. Neither did I ask. I just asked how they came up with the numbers. And the numbers based on the Tri-County study don't work. It overstates what, in fact, we're supposed to have on recommendations. Okay. And I was always concerned by the idea that we were told that if we don't adopt this and come in compliance of this Tri-County study, there would be lawsuits, and then there'd be more lawsuits, and more lawsuits, and possibly more lawsuits. So I started thinking, why? Who's going to sue us? And I don't know. Does anybody know who's going to sue us?
Directly, no. I
Okay.
mean, it's open, anybody would have that opportunity.
Sure. So then I thought about why we were doing this, and it was about affordability again. So I started to think about that and the conditions under which we met. Currently in the village, we have what they consider 1,039 affordable units, currently. And in fact, the affordability of them, to some extent, is more expensive than single-family housing in the village. So when I asked, what does affordability mean, I didn't get an answer then either. So which brings me to my next point, again, why are we doing this? If the goal was to create affordability, what exactly is affordability that we're going to create? What are we offering people the opportunity to do by giving them that opportunity to do it? So I went and tried to find what affordability was, and it's more than just housing stock. You know, there's all kinds of opportunities for affordability. Anything from Section 8 housing, affordable apartments, veterans who can acquire certain benefits for their purposes, given their circumstances, or their tenure. There's a lot of different things that have to do with affordability. You can rent a house and make it affordable. I didn't really understand it, and I still don't understand it. But that was the banner, affordability and changing all this. But from my standpoint, what it's done is it's created a lot of fear and a lot of concern in this village. Okay? And I think it was unwarranted. I mean, we did a master plan, to my understanding, in 1960. And I'm sure there were amendments going on through, right up to today. But at the end of the day, we did and went out and created a new comprehensive plan. 2012, we started it. I wasn't on the board then. There was a committee that did it. And in February 2014, they adopted it. And after they adopted it, they went after what should be the zoning to complement it. So the zoning should reflect what the residents and the consultants said contained in the comp plan were there. So they should marry each other. They should be similar, not dissimilar. And it came out to be, to my understanding again, that they weren't. So things need to be amended. So now the comp plan in Local Law 5 amends the comp plan to now marry it more closely. And to date, the last version that I was given, the last piece of information I was given, still has issues with it. And that's a concern. Again, for the same reasons. Why are we doing this? The workshops, we talked about a lot of different things. One of the areas on North Main, that corridor was originally considered URM, different zoning than the non-conforming SR10 that it was originally zoned for it. And it had a multifamily overlay. And one of the things I asked the consultants and I asked the board to consider was, let's let these people on North Main and the ancillary streets, let them enjoy their house, their privacy, their lives. Why would we want to turn it upside down, potentially, if you rezone it for certain types of housing? And somehow they were able to achieve that. And they eliminated that URM designation, and they brought back the SR10, which I just assume it allows them to live their life in peace. I'm not sure. But they found the additional units that allowed them to remove it, because putting that there allowed them to gain units. By removing it, took away from their total available. And as the mayor just read, that we were within 100 of our goal. And when you talk about goal, and you talk about the study, these were recommendations. These don't mean that in 2020, the county is going to come down and shut the village down because we didn't comply. These are recommendations, and they talk about affordability because everybody has a right to live in a community, and everybody has a different financial station in life. And there are volumes. I can't tell you the reason that I've tried to accomplish. And it's amazing what affordability is. There's percentages, there's occupants in a house, where they all stay. There's 4 different tiers or 5 tiers, and way above my pay grade, way above. But it's all troubling to me. I am concerned about a couple of components that are also in the local laws. For instance, in 1960, when the comp plan was developed, I had imagined, and I don't know this for a fact, I'll defer to anybody that knew or doesn't know, that there might have been 2,500 residents. Today, there are about 9,800 residents that are directly beside here in the village. Forget about the ancillary, the people on the side and all that, that use services here in the village and whatnot. So the impact has increased exponentially 4 times what it was in 1960. It's based by population alone. Forget about who comes into the village to do business, either a restaurant or whatever like that. And they use resources. One of the conditions in this revision is to remove what I understand, and I tried to realize, is an environmentally sensitive overlay. And I don't know why, if in 1960, and I don't know if it was in 1960, I didn't read the comp plan then, why it was efficient or okay then, why now would you remove something that was in there as an environment? When I hear environmental, I think of the issues of the resources, the community, the land. That's what I see as environmental. And when I see that missing, it brings me great pause. And I think the consultants will probably tell you that I've been on this bandwagon since the beginning. And I don't see much changing. I've reached out to people, I've asked a lot of questions. I talked to some people up at the county and asked about, you mentioned the environmental assessment form I mentioned before, as it was written into the law, EAF, it's in 3 parts. I don't know this, I'd like to ask this question if I could. It's segmented into the local laws 5, 6, 7 as one, local law 8, and then 9. I'm just curious why it was done that way. Is there any reasons for doing that way, Phil?
I would have to go back and look.
Okay.
The part 3, you only prepare if there's a response in part 2 that calls for that. But if you're asking about the segregation of those local laws, actually, I think 5, 6, and 7, that's the comprehensive plan, the zoning based on the comprehensive plan, and the zoning map.
Right.
So all 3 of those are related to the changes made to the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
8 was changes to the zoning code
Chapter 200.
outside of that, and 9 was the village code generally. So that's why they were separated.
And that's just the correct form?
Yeah, they're similar topics, so they can be handled in the same fashion.
So not 1 EAF, but 3.
3, yes.
What I would like to say, in reading through it, that there are really good aspects in the language. There are issues, chapter 200, the zoning code. There are a lot of things that will create better enforcement and other aspects for the village, so they're great. The problem is, and for me it's a substantial problem, is I look at these local laws and I look at the comp and I look at the zoning code, and it's like a federal spending plan for me. You got great pieces in there, and they're put in there, and then along with that comes a piece that has no business being there, or that is not what I want to see, or at least from this seat, what I would like to see. But because it's got some good pieces of it, you kind of bite into it. And that's, to me, a problem. I think it should be looked at completely. I don't think it was. I don't think this board, even though we did have workshops, has not completely digested it. It's a very substantial document, or set of documents. For instance, there's a note in there with regard to the AARB, Architectural Review Board, which in 1992 was instituted here in this village as a local law. It was a board. And I served on that board prior to serving in this board. And when I served on that board for a year and a half, we at best had some street signs that commercial businesses wanted to have, and they would come before us with their materials and their sign and their scale, and they would tell us about it. In 1992, when that law was written, that Architectural Review Board had everything to do with the vertical surface of a building. Everything. It was very comprehensive. And by the time I got on this board, 25 years later, they were looking at signs occasionally. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why. I don't know why I wasn't aware of that, but that's a fact. I've got the law, and it was written in 1992 and passed by a board at that time. And I don't know why. We've got a project hanging out at the old A&P building. Never came before that board. And if you read the law, that board should have been advised that that application was coming forward for a building permit and that they needed to weigh in on it. And I know they weren't because I asked them. I have a problem with that when we go about doing this kind of stuff. And now I see it in the thing here to be eliminated. I've got a real serious problem with that. I think, again, I think there are components that help the village, and ultimately the goal is to take care of the village and its residents. It's not about this board. It's about the residents that are here now and the ones that are going to come after you. We are setting the table right now. I'm not interested in what we can amend 6 months from now, a year from now, a year and a half from now. I'm interested in what we do right now, what actions we take right now. And as I try to learn about certain things, I keep hitting roadblocks, and I don't really know necessarily what they mean, but I see one of the things in the tables, for instance, that talks about a minimum, this is under notes, so this would be a 3,000 square foot lot area per dwelling unit, and 1,000 square feet would be the livable component of that. So I don't know if this is true, but let's just take that, 3,000 square feet of land area. And let's just take the easy math and say that it's 30,000 square foot lot. Let's just make believe. Would I be correct in saying then that 10 units of 1,000 square feet apiece would be permissible on that note in that table, wherever it's placed?
No.
What would it mean? What does that mean? Tell me.
That is applied after the density, so the density is set in the zoning code itself. So then you're looking at a building, you're looking at an additional safeguard to ensure that additional land. First you start with the density. So 8 units per acre, you can construct, 8 units per acre is the minimum, that's the maximum density for a multifamily project.
8 units per acre.
8 units per acre.
So where does 3,000 and 1,000, where does that?
That's floor area.
That's the floor area, exactly. So is 1,000 square foot a unitable, it says livable floor area.
Right, so I think where that is, in the case of the existing overlay district, let's go with that. So if you have a single-family home today, and you're in that multifamily overlay, you have the ability to divide that single-family home up into additional units. You have to look at that home, how much it has now, so you can do that on 15,000 square feet, Kelly, 12, 10 or 15,000 square feet? 15,000 square feet, you have to be able to meet that minimum 3,000 square foot. So in addition to that minimum lot area that you have, 15,000 square feet, your lot also has to be able to meet that additional floor area per unit. So if you want to divide your single-family home today up into 3 units, you need at least that floor area. So it's an additional safeguard. It's not setting your density, it's an additional safeguard on top of it.
Okay, so let's just, I'll use mine. That's easy, right, because it's mine, so I can talk about it. So I've got 30,000 square feet of land. So that's approximately 3/4 of an acre, give or take, right?
Yep.
Tell me what I can do on that property.
I need to know the zoning.
SR 20.
You can build a single-family house.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, where does this apply? And that's why I'm asking, because again,
Or a condo.
you're talking about 8 units per acre, and I'm thinking, okay, where is that? And now I'll make that my house. I want to find where I
Not
can
in
do
the
that.
SR20, you have to be, the 8 units per acre would only apply in the URM, and currently applies in your SR10 with
SR10
the multifamily overlay.
Which is current,
Which is north.
Today.
which is North Main.
It applies, correct, today it applies in that overlay district. Based on the proposal that is in front of you, it will only apply in the URM district, it will no longer apply in that SR10, the overlay will go away.
Right.
So then, but the SR20 in your example has nothing to do with 8 units per acre at all.
Okay. So, all right, so we've identified it's the URM.
Correct.
Okay. So we've devised, or we've come up with some calculations suggesting the URM zones. North Main was one of them, it's no longer, but we've got several other areas that have that URM designation right now, right?
Correct.
And I think Franklin Avenue is one of them, right? And the one,
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah.
with the map. Franklin Avenue,
The only portion off there, Franklin Avenue, is next to the old textile.
yeah, I was gonna say,
That's
it's
it.
mostly on the,
The rest of Franklin is SR10.
SR10,
That's correct.
and to remain SR10,
correct.
Correct.
no opportunities?
Neil, didn't you see that in the map? I gotta ask that question. Wasn't it on the map?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so.
But here's my problem, let me be clear about the
Okay,
problem.
I get, see where we're going, that's all.
Okay.
I'm trying to
All
follow,
right,
follow top of
where we're going is this, here's where we're going. My concern has and remains, unfortunately, that I'm constantly looking for something. I'm not feeling this. I'm not gonna kid you, I'm not feeling this at all. It's got problems. You just mentioned about the overlay, you just mentioned about something just before it. You talked about something that troubled me. It had to do with one, actually I have it, let me just, my notes. There are areas in the, you mentioned multifamily overlay,
which is existing currently.
right?
Okay.
But there's areas, well, exist currently, but to be removed. We're talking about North Main? What are you talking about?
It's the only multifamily overlay in the villages.
I don't know, I'm asking.
Yes, it's-
Okay, yeah.
your overlay district is on the SR10 in the North Main Street corridor.
Does the comp plan align itself with the zoning, with that multifamily language there or not there in both documents?
The
At this
comprehensive
time.
plan always recommended getting rid of that overlay.
So is it out of the document right now?
The comprehensive plan always recommended getting rid of the overlay.
Whatever we
Yes,
made,
yes.
whether it was URM, SR10, GB,
Well, in zoning code, it still refers to the overlays.
The zoning code, there's more than one overlay, not a multifamily overlay, but it may refer to,
I don't believe there's any overlays in the proposed new zone.
John, I'm picking it up from the language in the codes.
Kelly, the book stick.
Which overlay are you referring to? Mr. Dwyer?
I'm actually not sure based on the language. I'm just talking about language.
What page are you on?
8 through 12?
83 to 12?
8 through 12
Of,
of comp plan?
using the comprehensive plan referring to an overlay or the zoning code?
Well, the comprehensive plan would refer to the overlay, because generally in the beginning pages, it talks about what is existing, and that is existing. So then, after it's existing, then you make recommendations to change. That's how the comprehensive plan is generally worked. So I defer to Kristen's company.
No, I don't think it's too bad.
Yeah, the comp plan, of course, discusses the overlay, and it points out that there are several issues with it, including enforcement, including planning board review of certain uses in it, so that's why it recommends getting rid of it. But of course it would, that's why it discusses it.
Okay, so in the discussion where it says there are 2 overlay districts, that is a narrative talking about the current existing, but there is a counterpoint to that that says that is no longer part of the makeup of
So
that.
you're talking about the comprehensive plan, I just want to be clear what
Yeah,
document.
page 12, 4th paragraph, there are 2 overlay districts within the village of Monroe. The multifamily conversion overlay district is located along North Main Street. The purpose of this overlay district is to allow the conversion of existing large dwellings to multiple apartments. This overlay allows the conversion of residential structures to multifamily use, where the SR10 alone only permits conversion to 2-family dwellings. There are a few controls that are imposed in this area, and this overlay has led to landowners paving front yards, eliminating sidewalks and grass verges in favor of asphalt drop curbs.
Yeah, those are the
That's
problems
existing.
with it, that the
Okay.
comprehensive plan points out and then recommends removal
Right,
for
so
those
what I'm
reasons.
asking is, what, if anything, has been done to, that just removes it? When you remove it from the zoning map, it no longer exists as it currently suggests.
Correct. It'll go away.
Right.
Excuse me, what does an overlay mean?
Exactly.
Go ahead, John.
An overlay district is you have a base zoning map. So you have a base, SR10 allows a single-family residence with a minimum of 10,000 square foot lot.
Yes,
An overlay district, which is in the current zoning now, is a section on North Main Street where it's a special overlay that if you have a certain lot with a certain size, you can do something other than a single-family residence. Specifically, you can do a multi-family residence. That's why North Main Street
okay.
has multi-family homes.
Kind of like,
Who benefits by this increased density?
well, that's where it was done,
Pardon me?
it was done a long time ago.
The,
We're removing that.
Last time I was here, I thought I heard you say that you were only increasing the density of the textile building and the,
Small lot by the golf course.
right.
Yeah.
And now it's more? Now we're...
No. It's
Oh,
getting
I'm
confusing.
sorry,
It's
I don't have my
getting-
hearing aids, so...
It's just getting a little confusing. The bottom line is the URM district is being removed from North Main. The existing homes that are multifamily will remain existing multifamily homes. It's going to
Correct.
stay as is. Kind of think of it this way, North Main was like a special district. Just to simplify it. There was a section of North Main that was created as a multifamily overlay where they can develop multifamily homes. I don't know how long ago it was done.
Okay,
That's now being removed.
okay,
And the URM is not going in. We've changed that.
okay.
So the comprehensive plan recognized there was issues on North Main. And what was just read out and described, Neil just read it all pretty much. And the drop curves in the multifamily, they recognize there's issues up there. So we're now addressing those issues. That URM is coming out now. Multifamily overlay is coming out and making it SR10.
Okay.
And the homes that we were going to make URM on Elm Street and Oak Street, which are in the general business district, are going to stay general business district. They're not going to change.
Okay, so, let me just continue that same point. On page 40 of the comp plan. And again, when I go with the comp plan, I'm taking this is the Bible, and then this is the life I'm gonna live because of the Bible. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm saying this is the document that the zoning and everything else is complementing so that we can live in harmony with each other. This is what I take from this. Am I wrong about that? These are recommendations, these are ideas that have been put to print so that we have a guideline for doing certain things.
Yes, your comprehensive plan created that general document, and then it went to a steering committee, which merged that with zoning changes.
Right. So when I look at page 40, it says generally, these areas of the village correspond with areas of lower home ownership and greater landlord absenteeism. These are areas that have greater numbers of two-family and multifamily structures, some of which have been found through code enforcement to be occupied by more than one household per living unit. To improve the quality of possible future conversions, multifamily conversions should be required to meet the new standards being promulgated for new construction multifamily units, including limitations on the number of bedrooms and apartments with a number of stories, apartment size requirements, and requirements for improved ADA accessibility. So density limitations should be established and should be limited to no more than 5 units per acre. Again, and I say this because it is above my pay grade, but when you get different pieces, when I see something that says multifamily in the comp plan, I'm thinking, where is that now, if we don't have that? So,
You had multifamily in the village. You've had that
right, but this is
forever.
not about, that's what I'm trying to get at, John. To me, I read the document as, this is what we're going to use going forward. This is what, in 2012 and 2014, plus in the past 6 months, a group has gotten together to create a final document. This is what we're going to pass tonight, in theory, right?
I believe so.
Right, well, if I have my way, we won't. But the point is that when I look at this and I see this, and I see that that's the language in there, it says multifamily. That tells me there's multifamily. There's going to be, because it says to improve the quality of future conversions. That means there's language that says it's going to be, is it not?
But you're still permitting conversion to multifamily, like in the URM, so that's what that's talking about.
In the URM?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The village still will allow multifamily throughout in portions of the village.
That we,
In the URM, so that would be in here, right? In the URM only, it would be language. I'm just asking, because to me, it's a bit confusing. And then when I see density limitations should be established and should be limited no more than 5 units per acre, where would that apply? We just discussed a moment ago about maybe 8, and I thought maybe it was even more. But this says 5, where does that 5 apply? I don't know.
It's hard for me to take, without having the documents, mixing the comprehensive plan, which is a guideline, to the zoning, which was modified to match that, so I can't give you specifics on that.
Oh, yeah, and I understand that, and I respect that, John. And this is not a gotcha moment.
Okay, but the key, what you're confusing, and maybe, once you have a comprehensive plan and the zoning, the planning board, and this is just being put, looks at the zoning. They don't look at the comprehensive plan often. They look at the zoning, which is based upon the comprehensive plan. So if you're concerned or confused over multifamily versus the URM zone, that kind of goes away in the practicality of it. But when they refer to multifamily, it only can occur in the URM zone. It can no longer occur on if the law is adopted, it cannot occur on North Main Street anymore. It's only in those specific areas that the URM is proposed to be located in.
All right. I mean, I have, listen, I have piles and piles of notes and things that I'd like to just keep bringing along, but in the interest of timeliness and everything else, I'm not going to go that way. But I'm going to just say this. There are problems in the local laws that they're written. There's problems in the code, things that don't marry each other. Sometimes they're just so simple as some minor language or spelling or whatever, but more importantly, they're more significant. And one of the things that really troubles me as a representative of this village, in October, we were going to pass these laws. And through the diligence of this board and you, we went ahead and found ways to change and modify and alter. At the same time, in October, you sent this entire package up to the county for review. The county came back, put their comments on the table. I have no idea whether or not they were folded into this document or not. I'll leave that up to you. But they did come back with comments. At the end of the day, it was supposed to be adopted. It didn't happen. Okay? I'm asking you now, with the number of changes that we've come up with, and the number of different ideas, and the things that you've incorporated into these documents that have substantially changed since October, why is this not going back to the county for further review? We took the whole North Main corridor and all the ancillary streets and removed significant amount of the URM district. We're back to an SR10, non-conforming. okay? Yet we're not bringing it back to the county for interpretation or whatever it is that they take from all this. Again, I'll defer to you as to what you sent in October. That's a problem. And then, to the earlier part about 2012, we developed this plan with the public's input. And in February of 14, we adopted it. We don't apply it. Didn't do that. And we waited till now to reinvent it so that we can now apply it. What we did in 12 and 14. But we didn't invite the public in. Yet, we had a public hearing, and by law, they're required to be here to hear the public, us doing their business. But we're not doing that again, and we've substantially changed this document, these series of documents, and yet we're not doing it.
You don't, well, first, you don't need to resend it to the county. After that, they had their opportunity to comment on it. They did. You made changes based on comments that the board had and also comments that you received at the public hearing, which is typical for any local law that you have. You hold a public hearing, you take the public's comments, and you may make changes based on those comments. And then you act on that. You don't put it out again. You got those comments, you considered them, and you made changes based on those comments.
Well,
And we did all that. We did public hearings, we had public comment.
but the driving force behind this, at the end of the day, was affordability.
No, it's not true, Neil.
Well, it is.
No, it's not. It's not,
It is.
because...
The housing and URM
Hold
had
on.
to do with...
Can I finish that? I'm answering. The driving force of this was the comprehensive plan from the public when it was developed. The affordable housing became a caveat when we started to review it and go through with the consultants as we started moving forward. And it became a big subject. I'm not going to deny that. But it's not the driving force of all these local laws that have come out of the recommendation, the comprehensive plan, the committees that met, now ourselves and the consultants. It's pretty much been beat up for quite some time now. And we've had ample opportunity, and we are under the gun because we're up to against the one-year moratorium, which then will have to be relinquished. We were trying to get a lot of these local laws changed to protect the interests of the village. We've worked diligently and hard and had a lot of extra meetings and come to good conclusions and I think good compromises really to address the issues that concern the public. We went above and beyond the call of duty and brought the public in for comment. And we've listened to that, and we've had other people review this and look at it, and they accepted their comments after public comment. We don't have to do that, but we have done that. So it's not like this was done by a fly-by-night. There's a lot of time and effort.
No, I understand.
We
I
pay
suggest
professional
that
consultants. We also pay
consultants.
professional consultants to protect our interests. That's what we pay them for. And that's what the attorneys are for, and the consultants, to correct our mistakes if we make any that we might think is right and keep us in jeopardy. And I understand, we talk about litigation, yes, anybody can litigate for a hangnail. But at the end of the day, we still have to protect the village down the road of any type of litigation, no matter what we do. No matter what we do. But to say that the driving force is absolutely untrue and to make a statement that fear was put in the public, the fear was created by the public on social media about a law that a community that already existed as a multifamily. And then people put out the URM when they were ignorant not to come to us and talk to us and ask us questions what the URM was going to entail, which came out of the comprehensive plan from the public meetings, from the public charrettes, and the public input. Every bit of this legislation is driven by the public. And it's our responsibility as the board and the committees that gather all this information, put it together, and those committee members volunteer their personal time to do all this work. 2 years of working. Folks, comprehensive plans don't get made over in 6 months. They take a long time, and they are not perfect. They will need corrections. They will need amendments. We already know that. And we need to also review every 6 months what's going on now, because our landscape in our area is changing in such a fast pace, as we all know. But Neil, I'm not here to argue. I just want you to know the driving force is not. It became a large. It did become a large part, and I can't deny that.
Yeah, let me retract. Let me clarify. So
Okay.
we're not on the wrong page. We're on the same page.
Yeah, no.
I'm not suggesting that the consultants nor this board or anybody that involved themselves in this project as volunteers, the URM or the affordability or the housing was the only thing. There are, I said in the very beginning of my conversation that there's a lot of great components to this and that should be considered. What I'm just saying is that if I said to the board, hey, you know what, let's consider removing URM from the village.
You had your opportunity to do it when we met.
No, but I'm just saying, we have the opportunity now to do it.
Well, no, but hold on a second. We've had, this is,
No, I understand what you're
this is
saying.
9 months in the work.
I understand
We've been
that.
working hard
I understand that.
because I'll tell you what.
But I'll tell you what
Come
drove me.
June, when June comes and this doesn't get done, guess what? We're a world of hurt. There's a reality to what's gonna happen if we do not, I'm not saying to ram us down our throat, because we did take the time and spend a lot of time, extra time than expected, and we did some college cramming and stuff like that. But we were already told 1 year. After that, we could be in serious issues. But we know what potentially could happen in some of this legislation not being passed. And you can't start to pick and choose every single one and make it perfect. We will amend this as time goes on. And talk about the comprehensive plan done in 1960, they made a code upgrade in the 90s and that was it.
No, I
So-
don't
so-
know any of it.
no, I'm just trying to make the point.
It's
It is-
not to have aggressively dealt with this on an ongoing, we have a kick the can mentality in local government.
But we're not, that's what we're not doing here. We're not kicking
No,
the
I
can, we're
understand.
finally,
But,
the buck is stopping here to get something done.
but,
That the can was kicked. To your point, Neil, I understand, you sometimes get frustrated because there's so many words and lines and paragraphs and all, but at the end of the day, we've asked a lot of the questions to the consultants to clarify. That is their pay grade, it's not ours. We pay them and hire them for a reason, like any other municipality does, to protect the interests of the community, protect its integrity, and protect its makeup. And this started, think about it, you're talking about 12,000, 2012, 2014, 2 years to get it passed. It's now 2017, it's 5 years later, folks, getting here. It took us 5 years to get to this point.
well, which brings me to my next point. I mean, a lot of things, like you just said, things can be amended, things can be changed, 6 months, we gotta revisit it. It's 5 years old, the document.
No, these documents are
Well, no,
based on the last 9 months of changes.
right.
So,
And that's what brings me to my point about what I'm saying is, when I think about the people that put the time in 12 and 14, I get it, it's done. We don't apply it, we move forward, here we are revisiting it, we're amending it, we didn't even apply it, we're amending it.
actually, they were still working on it all this time, you know, especially the buildings department.
Yeah.
They were still working on it. That's how much work, after work, they were doing to put into this. I'm telling you, it takes a long time. And it's, you know.
Well, I can speak for me, I'm not gonna speak for the board.
No, I just don't want
saying
the public to think that there was only
Well,
one thing driving this.
Listen,
It sounded like it was affordable housing. It's not affordable housing that's driving
well,
this.
no,
It's a contingent of
conversation-
issues.
I mean, we don't have any minutes of it, I'm sure, but, or any video. But the fact of the matter is that when I first began this in October in the review, there was the words litigation, there was the words affordability, it never stopped. I didn't hear about, it's a good idea to make sure somebody does their lawn, so in the new code of chapter 200, we're gonna make sure that's there. That never got into the story book, what got into the narrative constantly, banging in my head, was
Well,
litigation.
Well, Neil,
URM.
unfortunately, that's your responsibility. The board has had the discs for over 3 years, except for Debbie, of what was already in there. The bulk of that information was in there. The board asked to have things redlined. We had it redlined. At the end of the day, we might be talking about one narrative on a daily basis, but the responsibility of us board members is to read the whole thing.
And I did.
We're 9 months later.
No.
I'm just saying, 9 months later, and you still say, you know, we gotta get to more reading.
Well, because, listen, you keep hammering away at something until it's doing what it's supposed to do. I don't know about the year, I'll defer to legal, but, you know, to me, I never heard of a time clock. I know the resolution we passed was for 1 year of the moratorium potentially, or whatever the language referred to as 1 year, and the anniversary is coming up, I get that. But that doesn't stop you from modifying that, writing a new resolution to extend it, not extend it, but to write a new law that says for the next 30 days, we are going to continue this. You've got opportunity, and I'm not sure when you say, this is what I mean, when we talk about litigation, we're in a world of hurt. Who exactly is coming to hurt me? I want to know who that is.
Nobody knows who it is, Neil.
All right.
And you never will.
And I'm not interested. I'm interested in these folks. You are.
And what about the people who are suffering, who want to get their projects going in this village, that we're holding up?
I'm not happy about it.
Huh?
I'm not happy about this.
Well, go to the
And
building
I don't want to
department.
hurt anybody or infringe on anybody's right.
Well,
Listen, I understand.
We're getting to a
I
point where
go
we
out
gotta,
every day and fish and hope I catch
but
a
at the
fish.
end of the
I get
day, we have to start making decisions and
Well-
kicking the can down the road. And this will protect the village, and we can amend it afterwards.
And we won't.
Uh-huh. I'm sorry?
I don't know. I just-
Well, that's a negative attitude.
Yeah, I just don't think.
You just
Listen,
can't say, I'm not gonna do it.
I get on this board, we adopted before I get on the board in 14. I am not privy to a single syllable. From February 14, I come on April 1, 14. I don't know about anything that's of any substance until October of 16. I don't know there's even a second board involved or a second committee working on this. I don't know anything of it. I think there's a planner. I don't know anything about anything. That's a trivial.
Neil, well, then you should have asked, because at the end of the day, there was a disc, there was a plan. All,
I want to be told.
You
I don't want to ask. I'm
you
tired
were
of asking
told,
questions.
you were told the disc was on the comprehensive plan, it was
I
adopted
looked
by.
at the disc, I tossed it. I have no interest in the
Okay,
disc.
so then what's?
I took the stick as the Bible. That was what was given to me in October. It said, this is what
Okay.
you're going to adopt.
So it's 9 months later.
No, we've been on it since.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so it's,
We've been on each other's hair about this since October.
it's 9 months.
Whatever's left.
I'm just saying, 9 months of hard work.
I won't argue the
Neil,
point.
Neil, I mean, wait.
I mean, the board has a, I'm sorry, wait. The board has a local law for the ARB. It's not enforced, it's discarded, it's kicked aside. Was this board even aware of it? Let's take a straw poll. Were you aware the ARB was being disbanded in this plan? No concerns? Did you know? Irene?
I didn't know until you brought it to my attention.
If I could clarify, the AARB is not being eliminated, the power is being given to the planning board.
Oh, no,
The
I
pla-
agree. The board I'm talking about, John.
Okay, but I'm
Physical
saying,
board.
it's not like you're throwing,
Not
I just
the
want to
function.
clarify. You're
Not
not
the
throwing away the
function,
function, you're combining two
Right.
boards into one.
Right. And the two boards, by two boards, you mean
You have the planning board and you have the ARB. Your comprehensive plan, you go through there, had issues. Basically, there was a coordination issue and some other issues, and they recommended that the two boards be combined into one. The ARB is disbanded, and their role be given to the planning board. So the
Right.
planning
Their
board
role
would
will
review.
now be taken over by the planning board.
Correct.
And that's where my issue comes. And that's where I'm going with
That's okay, I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to clarify for the board. It's
Yeah, no,
not
I
limited to
didn't mean to
function.
suggest that to the public. I apologize if I did. I'm just saying, my concern is this board, this ARB historically was charged with performing a duty. Somehow or another, it got way loose. And I remember coming to this board back in '92 when it was first formed for a project here in the village. I had to make 3 appearances on behalf of the client in '92. They drove me nuts. I remember it very
Well, I
clearly.
think that's why they're combining the two boards into one.
Well, no, I didn't have a problem. No, what I mean to say is I remember why I came and what I had to perform for them, what I had to give them. I'm saying, what happened to the point, and you don't know this, what happened to the point where they are no longer even possibly looking at signs? Why weren't they given the A&P project? I don't know, and I'm sure you don't know. Does anybody know?
Right.
Mark? Anybody?
They're just doing the signs on the wall.
They're not even doing signs. There's 4 signs that were done in the past 3 months. Never came before the board.
That's a buildings department question, yeah. Wait.
First of all, I can't speak for anybody else. I read this, I digested it. Is it perfect? No. Next thing, I'd like to thank the consultants and the engineers. They've always had the door open, always good for emails, phone calls, any questions they had, they've answered. The board has put a lot of work into this. Trustee Conklin came up with a lot of good ideas. Like in New Jersey, they take smaller homes, knock them down for bigger homes. We tightened that code. Thanks to Trustee Conklin. We've also tightened up the idea of huge multi-dwelling houses. We tightened that code up during the last 9 months. Okay? Trustee Dwyer wanted the multifamily taken away from North Main. We found a way to do that. The SR10, the multi-layer overlay and multi-family dwellings are gone from the North Main area. So we have put a lot of work, a lot of thought. This is a living document. We're going to have to make changes, like it or not, as we see fit and as situations arise. We put a lot of hours in there. People came with a lot of good ideas. We made a lot of changes. We made the engineers drawing the maps and the zonings nuts. Okay? We must have changed every meeting we had. Every time they had to redraw it, they came back and gave us another copy. Same thing with the legal. We had so many legal questions, we got them answered. And right now, it's the best of what we can do. My job as a trustee is to ask questions. If I see something wrong, I'm going to ask, I'm going to find out what's going on. My job is not to sit here and let somebody come to me. And that's what we have to keep in mind. But I think this is actually the best I've seen. I've been on this board for 12 years. This is the best I've seen over the past 12 years. We're actually taking a stand, and we're actually doing something for once and for all, instead of kicking it down the road. And I hope that we continue to tighten these codes up, and when we see things wrong, ask questions. And if we have suggestions, bring them to the board. And if we have to change laws or change zoning, then let's do it. There's nothing to be afraid of. And that's all I gotta say.
It has been a lot. You know, I've been on the board a little over a year. It sometimes seems like another language trying to read all that was on that flash drive, and we have spent numerous hours. And I just want to make sure we're doing right by now and our future. I will be here for a very long time. I have a kindergartner who I'd love to see graduate from Monroe, just like the rest of us. And I just want to make sure that we're thinking of not just today, but for the future.
I don't think there's enough time in a day. Okay, so probably a month, when did we last extend this moratorium?
May 3rd.
So May 3rd, I think I said, let's do 30 days, whatever we had left. No one listens to me. I think that, I said it then, I don't think we should leave any man behind if there's doubt, and it seems like there is doubt. Am I correct?
What is serious doubt?
That we need to continue to work on it. It's just that simple. My concerns are, one, that we exceed the length of the moratorium. That's problematic for me. I don't want to do that. I don't know if we can extend it beyond a year. I mean, I've done some research. I've seen some places where it's gone on for 5 years.
Well, the moratorium, I don't have it in front of me, but it was for, the term was for a year
Right.
only. So that was, it was enacted, it didn't give us the right to do any extensions through the language of that local special.
Okay. It was also brought to my attention that somebody else had reviewed this and had found several questionable errors, and that was brought to the building department. So I haven't had time to talk to them about that.
Kelly can answer that for you.
Yeah, you know what, it's so important, and you know it's important. I mean, you've been working on it, pounding your head against the wall with us for months,
Yes.
right? I don't think that we should just say, okay, well, the moratorium's over, let's just pass it. I think if one of us has a doubt, then we all need to get on board with that doubt and work it out. That almost sounds like a
Kelly
teacher.
That
I did take
information
a look
will-
at the comments from the individual who did review the code and the documents and the comprehensive plan. Some of them were similar to what Trustee Dwyer was talking about previously. You know, why does the comprehensive plan talk about the multifamily overlay district? Because that's what's existing. So some of them have simple questions. When you're overhauling a code such as this, we've talked about this before, there's always going to be changes that you notice, oh, this needs to be updated. And generally after you do this, there's what I like to call a typos or clarification local law. And usually it's somebody will read it again and say, okay, now that this is in there, this is a typo and should be fixed, things like that. So there were a couple of those in there that will need to be revised, but I didn't see anything that was so substantial that would prevent you from adopting it tonight, should you so choose. But I am aware of those comments, and actually, they were sitting right next to my laptop today at work. So, I mean, I have them and was prepared, if this went forward, to have something put together for you, for anything such as that, and if anything else that, like Trustee Dwyer came across that said, does this need to be clarified, or is there a typo right here that nobody caught? Put that in there. But that's something that's typical for when you're overhauling a large document, as you've seen the number of pages that I've given you that you have to read, so.
Okay. And so my other question would be, if we adopted this and we needed to make changes, what does that look like? Let's just say I buy a house, I don't know, anywhere, and I want to do something to it, and the local law says, okay, yeah, you can, and then the board says, we didn't really realize that would be an issue, and how do we go about changing that when it's already, you know what I mean?
Well, this board always has the ability to adopt a law to change your zoning. That's always in your purview. You always have the ability to, if you see something like that, say you're allowing, I'm gonna use a drastic example, but like an arena type thing, and you just realize, oh my goodness, we're allowing that in a residential, in the SR10. And there's an application there. You always have the ability to put a moratorium on that type of application to look at, do you really want to have that use permitted right next door to, one single-family houses? You always have the ability to change your zoning by local law and to adopt a moratorium to put a halt on, even if it's just specific uses, so you can take the time to analyze if that's what you really want.
Just to confirm that, I'm just looking at the zoning map, it was adopted in 1990, your current map. It was amended in 92, amended in 95, amended in 96, amended in 97, amended in 97, amended in 98. So you can see where there was pockets right after when they first adopted it, that they tweaked it.
Right.
And then there was kind of gap, and probably a different board came in and said, oh, we want to tweak it here, and they made local laws specifically that modified this plan.
So nothing's cast in stone, that's for sure. And it's going to be, from this point forward, a never-ending battle for us to constantly adjust as we go. That's for sure.
And like Trustee Chan said, it's a living document, it's a working document, and you always realize when you do something like that, as you're going through the process, you realize, is that something we really want? Let's take a look at it, and you have the ability to change it.
And you can turn out, a lot of times when they first do this, certain things don't even exist. You see them, micro towers, they're not cell towers anymore, they're micro towers. They're being put on telephone poles and tops of small buildings. That's something that's going to be addressed, honestly, through the board probably in the next year, because they're now becoming more proficient. So you're always going to have new technology or new items that you didn't even think of now that are going to be sales. There's going to be different types, so.
I'd lie if I told you I'm not nauseous about this right now. Honestly, it's just such a huge, I feel like I'm giving my firstborn away. It's,
Well, it's not often that you have such an overhaul like this. So like John was saying, it's tweaks here, tweaks there usually. So this is.
But you haven't tweaked since '98.
Any more discussion?
I have a question. When you talked about specifically applying moratorium to a, can you finish that sentence? Specifically applying a moratorium to a
specific use. As an example, I actually have another municipality that put a halt on approvals for apartments in a certain zone because they wanted to see if that was something that they actually wanted in that zone. So you have the ability to put a moratorium on it and maintain the status quo while you're taking a look at it. But Scott can weigh in if he has something.
Well, again, I state my points. I do agree with all the comments. Notwithstanding, I do appreciate all the efforts and the work. That's not really where I'm, we all work at something, but we take different paths. And, for me, this path has been really difficult, and I won't minimize any of my fellow board members and mayor in this regard, but we all handle it differently. I lived, eat, and breathe this thing. I did. And there is nothing I'd like to do more than to just say, okay. But in my gut, I know I've got some concerns here. And I'm going to say concerns. Okay, I'm not saying they're insurmountable. I'm not saying there's anything underhanded. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that there are things here that trouble me. One very clearly being that we're abolishing, and I'm not even sure, I'll let council weigh in on it, but we've got a current board in the village of Monroe that's being disbanded by another local law that this board has no knowledge of, other than to read it, as Trustee Chan said he did. I didn't see it, I just didn't see it. And these other two trustees here just said openly that they hadn't either. I think they're purposeful, I think it's a shame what was done to them. That's a theoretical and an argument that you could have for another day. But to say that I'm prepared to say, yep, that's it for them, I'm not. I'm not. And it troubles me that I see some projects, I see a situation where a building was painted on our Lake Street over here. And my first reaction when I saw it was, I first called the chief of police and I asked him if I power washed it off the building, what would he do to me? And he said he would arrest me. And he said, why would you do that? You're a local businessman, your wife's a local business owner. Why would you do that? Go upstairs and do the right thing. So I did. I went Monday morning, I spoke to Jim, and I asked him about it, and he said there was nothing on the books with regard to the vertical surface of the building. So I said, okay, so in fact, and I just assumed that that was a flag, I don't know what that is. But if somebody 3 doors down wanted to do something of a similar design, could they do it? He said, absolutely. So then the light bulb, of course, went up and said, well, that's a problem. None of that's been addressed here. However, in the local law in 1992 and so forth, the AARB had that ability to discuss that, to bring that to everyone's attention, and including the owner or developer, whoever was going to do the project. That's been mustered away. And I was told, we don't have it. But I darn think that if we have a theme, whatever that may be, we went through a comp plan, a very arduous one, why isn't that part of it? We actually had, in our renderings, in the comp plan, it shows an architectural firm did some renderings as a suggestion of what we could do. So the theory or the thought was out there to do something that would bring us into some sort of a harmony. And when we had the opportunity to look at that, again, most people wouldn't know that. When I saw that, I really believed that that was illegal to do. I'm like, you can do that like that? And sure enough, Jim let me know that he was perfectly within his rights. As a matter of fact, the owner of the building came on behalf of the tenant that wanted to do it because the tenant did it. I hate it. Absolutely hate it.
Well, same as the one building that just has stuff in front of the window, and you think that you can go in there and buy food, and it constantly looks like it's construction, and it's being sold out the back door, and it's been going on since the summer, and I don't want to even walk by it. We could have such a beautiful looking downtown, and we need some kind of enforcement of what the storefronts look like and what kind of businesses are being run. I don't know how we go about it, but if you're going to advertise that you're a fish store, then I think you should be opening the doors and selling fish to people, not running out the back door and looking in at tiles, and I haven't looked in a while, but it's really an eyesore, to say the least.
Kelly, you want to answer that?
I mean, those are really building department issues and enforcement issues. Obviously, enforcement is in the discretion of the building inspector, so those are issues you'd have to take up with him.
No, I don't disagree with that, and Jim mentioned that a minute ago too, with the building issue, and again, I don't want to, it's not, I don't want to.
Specifically, that doesn't, the code
Doesn't tell people what they can do with their building.
Right, but
That's why they go through a process, they go in front of the board and they get approvals.
Right. But what yes, and to that end, I'm saying if this village wanted to do something to provide local laws that gave the guidance and the enforcement power to the building department, which it should, then we should be doing that. And I think that needs to be tied into this as well. I mean, and I know it's fluid and it can be done and all that. I'm just saying that there are pieces here that just give us great pause. That's it.
All right, everybody, I'm going to call the vote. Trustee Chan? Aye. Trustee Dwyer?
No.
Trustee Berenger?
No.
Trustee Conklin?
No.
So carried. So we don't go forward with the local laws. So, Scott, since the moratorium expires,
When does it expire?
today,
today. So I think I'd have to double check the date, but I'm pretty sure it completely is over by the evening of June 14th. So to continue it, you would need another local law, which would require another public hearing on the moratorium. So since I don't have them for you.
so I have a question. Since our moratorium expired today,
You can extend it until June 14th, and then in that time period, try and have 2 special meetings to adopt a new local law.
we're meeting on June 6th.
It's possible if you depending, I would work with Ann Margaret on publication times, but you would likely have to have a special meeting the following week.
We have a regular meeting June 6th and then June 20th, so right to 14th. So my question is since the moratorium expired today, what happens to the existing local laws now that are on the books between now and the special meeting?
The ones that are currently in the code,
Mhm.
well, they are continuing. So if the moratorium expires, people could just do whatever the code permits them to do right now.
So if somebody comes in, files for a permit for an SR10 area with a single-family home and want to make it a multifamily, they will get that permit given to them?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, everybody's aware of that?
Assuming what?
Not assuming.
Assuming that's-
moratorium
No,
ends.
no, I get it. But if you decide to extend the moratorium, then what would happen? And please tell me that the SR10, they'll come in tomorrow for a multifamily application.
That's my question, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, no, that's, Jimmy, that's not
That's-
exactly the way you phrased it. You phrased it like you wanted the board to be aware that tonight did.
No, this is the question I'm asking. Does it end today or is it the 14th?
It ends today. You would need a resolution to extend it to
Okay,
the 14th.
Okay, that was my next
And within that
question.
time period,
Okay.
if you wanted it to continue past the 14th, you would need to adopt a new law.
Okay.
Which
All
requires
right,
a new.
so then let me ask you this, because this, and I could be way off on this.
Which I
Could-
wrote that down.
Could we, let's just say we pass it, can we still extend the moratorium to still work out some other issues?
By local law,
Yes.
yes. If you pass the resolution to extend the moratorium,
Right, so if we, let's just say we passed the zoning that we have as it is right now.
yes.
Can we then also extend the moratorium to still work on some other issues?
You can. It would require a new local law to extend it past the 14th.
Which is what we're gonna do anyway.
Yes. then
So there's no foul, no harm. What I'm saying is, if we did that, we would be, someone could come in tomorrow then and say, oh, all these rules apply because we just passed it, but we're also extending
The moratorium.
the moratorium.
That's,
Common sense.
Okay, listen to me.
it's what she,
Pass the zoning the way it is, and still extend the moratorium to work on what we need to work on.
That's what's on.
the current.
The current zoning. And still extend the moratorium, which would give us time to work out any of the existing issues.
Why would you do that?
Because it just covers us on business, and that's my concern. Right now, we don't pass it, the moratorium expires, anybody can
All
come
right,
in.
so let's play this scenario out. So this board decides to take an action tonight, which would be to either extend the moratorium, or does this board have the ability to write a new local law creating a new moratorium for a fixed period of time tonight? And they take one of those two actions.
They can only, I'm sorry, you can only take the first one to extend it by resolution.
Right.
You don't have a local law in front of you right now
Right.
to be introduced to
Okay.
then schedule a public hearing.
Right.
Okay, so the extension that we do right now would protect what's currently in place in the SR 10 and 20 moratorium.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and during that time, you could write a new local law which would provide that second protection that would then get in front of us and we go through the motions of public hearing and notices and have that ability. Yes?
Yes, by the 14th.
By the 14th.
And we could do it then, take that action on the 14th to do that.
Before the 14th.
Yes.
But yes.
I got it. So, Irene?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are protected?
Yes, either
No,
way.
Either way.
Right, I'm just, you said something about passing the zoning, I didn't know what you meant by that.
Right, because I was a little confused as to if it ended today, we would still be protected.
Yes, and we ended, right, but we would
Trying
make
to
that
get,
happen.
that's what I was trying
We would do that.
to get. So.
So the first thing would be to pass a resolution to extend the current moratorium
To the
until
14th.
June 14th.
Okay. Any motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Call question, trustee Chan. Trustee Dwyer.
Aye.
Trustee Conklin. Manager Conklin.
Aye.
What I'm going to ask the board to do is before we meet again to discuss any of this, I would like the board to put all their concerns and issues in writing. I would like the board to have them prepared for the planner and for the consultant, so we can move forward in a cleaner, smoother manner after we extend the moratorium past the 14th. Okay?
So then for your meeting on the 6th,
We-
you would like a continuation of the moratorium for a local law to
Yes.
consider and set a public hearing on the 2nd. You want me to draft a local law
No,
to?
if I'm correct, the board would like to continue the moratorium until the 14th. We will then call for a public hearing on the 6th, am I correct? Because we have to extend the moratorium past this 1 year. We have to have a public hearing.
You have to have a public hearing, so you would introduce the new local law on the 6th, schedule a public hearing for like the 13th.
Does that give you 10 days? No.
No, but it's not a zoning law, so it would be 10 days,
Okay.
it would be 5.
Okay.
So that's why I said work with publication. So you need to have a special meeting on
We
the
have to have a
13th.
special meeting on,
The 13th or the 14th.
okay, we have 14th at Biggs Court. Okay, all right. Next.
What are those dates again now for the public hearing?
We don't, well, we're gonna set it on the 6th,
Right.
so it depends, we don't know yet what night. We'll
The
set it on the
6th.
June 6th meeting, we're gonna set the public hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, next, farmer's market application. Just, again, the reason why I asked that, because we have to get through this moratorium. There are a lot of people now being affected throughout the village that are affected by this moratorium. We have to get this done.
I think we're all on board with that, Jim.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Resolve the Board of Trustees approve the events application submitted by Anthony Ramagino on behalf of the Monroe Activities Committee for the annual Village of Monroe Farmers Market. The market will begin on Sunday, June 4th, and conclude on Sunday, November 19, 2017. The market will be open on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and will be located in the commuter parking lot on Mill Pond Parkway. The Monroe Police Department will close off the parking lot every Saturday evening and reopen the market for Sundays. The farmers market will be promoted by the Monroe Activities Committee and throughout the village. Marshall Sterling will be insured. The Monroe PD, Fire District, and the Monroe Volunteer Ambulance Corps will be accompanied with a response letter with the dates. So I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Call question?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You're talking about the insurance right before, is that something that needs to be concerned about here?
No, we just use our insurance. It's up to the village. So I'm sorry, Trustee Chan?
Aye.
Trustee Dwyer? Trustee Berenger? Trustee Conkle? So carried. Next, resolve the Board of Trustees, the Activities Committee for the Summer Concert Series. Thank you, Remy. Resolve the Board of Trustees approve the Monroe Activities Committee events application for 9 outdoor concerts to be held on the north side of Lake Street between Mill Ponds. The following dates will be June 3rd, 10th, 17th, July 1st, 15th, 29th, August 5th, August 12th, and August 26th. They'll be from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Call question, Trustee Chan.
Aye.
Trustee Dwyer. Trustee Berenger. Trustee Conklin. Okay. Mayor's report. I'd like to thank the DPW and the Monroe Garden Club for preparing everything for the parks for the summer and the beginning of the Memorial Day week. They've done a fantastic job. They've worked very hard. It's a team effort between the Monroe Garden Club and the DPW doing a great job. And just a reminder, the parade is Sunday, 5/28, kicking off at 1:30 at Smith Globe, coming through the village up 17M to the cemetery, the Monroe Cemetery. So just a reminder. It rains, we go. There's no rain day. Okay? So other than that, attorney's report. Board? Public comment? Yes, Timmy?
Yes, hi, how are you today? I'm from West Haven. I got clarity. When did the moratorium start? What day
I
was
believe
that?
it was, I have to double check is what I said to the board, but I believe it was filed on June 15th, but it ended up being in the text retroactive to
May 17th, I think. We'd have to look at this
I'd
minutes.
have to look at the actual.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clear up because I was told it started May 17th because I had application for the ZBA that got rejected.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. I
And which was right because for many reasons, but when you said so when, if it's retroactive, Mayor, wouldn't that mean it would expire on the retroactive date of 5/17?
No.
So you can't have a moratorium on a certain date and go back and say, now I'm gonna extend it, because that's more than a year, the retroactive. Retroactive, you lose those days.
1 year from the date that it became effective.
Retroactive is
The date that
5/17.
it was filed with the Secretary of State.
But you can do it retroactive, so you're really not doing a year then, you're doing a year and maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
The
So
text-
you are over a year, Mayor. That's not fair to the public.
This is public comment, so I think that it's clear that we're gonna look into it. We've made the attempt to extend it to the 14th of June. If it turns out that, by the terms of the local law moratorium, it's expired beforehand, so be it. But at this point, it's just public comment. I don't think we should get into a debate of dates.
We'll have to have the attorneys look at it, Tim.
I'm just saying, the record.
I understand what you're saying. Let the
Good.
attorneys will have the answer for that. Carol, did you?
Yeah.
Carol Ferrara.
Forgive my ignorance, I just want to know, the moratorium that will not expire, whatever, is that to try to reduce multi-dwelling housing, or is it to increase? I thought I got reduced, but then.
We reduced.
To reduce.
We've reduced, but I don't know what trustee Dwyer's concerns are, or any of the other board members. They will discuss that with the planner and the attorney. We'll figure it out from there, but we have actually reduced the URM.
But that's not what the moratorium's for.
No.
It allows
I
us
understand
to.
it was a comprehensive plan.
To tweak the local
Bingo.
laws.
Right. Last question is, if they do a comprehensive plan, and I know this one is for zoning, does anyone ever think about doing something that, maybe we can't build anymore because the roads can't accommodate anything? The ambulances can't get down Route 17M because of the traffic that we have. I remember when I moved up here 35 years ago, they had a building moratorium also. I don't know whether it was for zoning or whatever. And the moratorium ended and all of the problems still remain. You still have one-lane roads in each direction. I know this is not the village, but on Ninja Road, when they get 1,200 homes, I can't even imagine with school buses and the police. And does anyone ever think about, is there such a thing as looking at the roads that they can't accommodate?
Kelly, you want to give a legal answer to that, please?
Those items are all covered under SECRA, the SECRA review, when you review the environmental
Impact
aspects of a
statement.
project.
And yes, there was a chapter on traffic in the comprehensive plan.
Excuse me?
There was a chapter on traffic in the comprehensive plan.
The secret process is what dictates.
And they said that our road's good?
Our roads are good in the village.
That's what the secret process means all over the place, including with the annexation.
With that, see, Carol, it's specific to the community.
It's what?
The secrets are specific to the landowners and the zoning and whatever the community is. I know what you're saying.
You should notice when they do the traffic studies, it's always in the summer when there's no teachers or school buses on the road. I always found that humorous. It is true. It's the truth. You'll always see them sitting on the side of the road with their Dunkin' Donuts cup, no disrespect, and their counters, and it's always in the middle of the summer with their umbrellas, and there's nobody around because they're all at the beach. Or running Tots 5K.
Hi, Susan Saylor,
Go ahead, Susan.
resident. I'd just like to commend you all because you're handling a very big item, and I think the conversation tonight was one that was informative, and it did suggest that there were little things that had to be looked at and reviewed, and I really feel that it was to the benefit of the village to go ahead and do this little extension of time, just to clear the air so everyone will be comfortable. So thank you.
And appreciate that, Susan, and as been said before, we already know we're gonna have issues after this gets adopted. We're fully aware of it. And believe it or not, our first line of defense is the buildings department. I'll give you one example. An applicant came in front of the buildings department and planning board about basements. Which is a local definition of basements. You wouldn't believe what somebody wanted to do. And now it's now in the comprehensive plan. The buildings department brought it to our attention. Because as Neil stated, we all work, but they work here. We rely on our departments to feed back to us. And it was amazing what somebody wanted to do. We were like, we have to not let that happen. So, you know, we depend on our employees, we depend on our consultants, we depend on the public and their opinions, but at the end of the day, our responsibility is to keep this living document alive and constantly change it, because that's the way we are now. It's just constant, it's a moving target. So, thank you. Anybody else in the public?
One last thing.
Yes, Carol.
Thank you for the water spout or whatever. You have halved my risk of falling. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it very much. It was done in a very timely fashion. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We thank the DPW for that. Thank you, Debbie, for getting a hold of John quickly. Thank you for everybody for getting it done. So, all right, other than that, anybody else? So I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Call the question. Trustee Chan.
Aye.
Trustee Dwyer. Trustee Berenger.
Aye.
Trustee Congress. So carried. Thank you, everybody.